Howdy there folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm happy to report that it's been a very good month or two for the modding scene of Project Zomboid, and in this video we'll be taking a look at some brand new mods that you can be trying in your next playthroughs with a little of everything from quality of life to massive groundbreaking new advancements. Trust me, there's some stuff in this one that really pushes the boundaries and changes the game completely, and if you want to download any of the mods from this video you can find a link to a full mod collection in the description. But without further ado, let's get into our first mod for today. Okay, so I'm going to kick off today's video with a mod that was once a very popular classic among the Zomboid community, but fell into a state of disrepair after work ceased to continue on the mod. Since then though, it's been rebuilt entirely from the ground up and is in better condition than ever before. This is the Only Cure rebuilt, and if you're sitting thinking to yourself right now, what do they mean? There is no cure. Well, you're half right. This mod offers a more, shall we say, practical remedy by simply removing the infected limb entirely. Now, while it is a simple solution to a complex problem, the reworked version of this mod is actually far from simple and offers a surprising amount of detail. You'll want to make sure you've got a handful of bandages and sutures on standby if you're planning to amputate a limb, which will then be automatically used during the operation to increase your character's chances of survival. If you have one, you can use a tourniquet as well to reduce the damage your character takes from the ordeal. If you amputate the lower arm rather than the upper arm, prosthesis is even available, which is just a really cool feature whichever way you look at it. Your timed actions will be slower to start with, but as you use your prosthetic arm more often, you'll slowly build more skill with it and begin to complete actions faster. Even then, there's the extra level of detail that you won't want to equip a prosthetic immediately, taking time to care for the wound and allow it the chance to heal in order to avoid unnecessary bleeding. All to say, this mod takes what was a fantastic classic of the workshop and brings it back with some striking mechanical detail. Okay, so here's a bit of a question for you on this next one. Have you ever wished that you could earn skills or traits during your playthrough? Maybe you wish you had picked different ones, or maybe you just like the option to work your way towards extra traits that make sense, such as becoming brave or desensitized to violence entirely. Well, with the Traits Purchase System mod, you can do that just simply by surviving. Over time, you'll accumulate XP in a new skill called Trait Points, and once you level up in this skill, you'll see a notification on the left side of your screen with the option to buy traits from the list, as well as the option to purchase ones from occupations too. Most of these ones have prerequisites, which sort of makes them function as an upgraded version that you can work your way towards. It's an interesting concept that allows you to work towards a meaningful goal in the late stages of the game, which is something vanilla Project Zomboid is lacking in some ways. Alright, so we've had a couple of pretty big mods to kick things off today. How about we take a look at a quality of life mod or two next? The ones that don't do anything crazy but make a much smaller change that could mean a lot to you all the same. First up, we've got Wess's opened can models. Now, a bit of context to this one. If you eat any tinned food item in Project Zomboid, you'll notice that there's either no model for that item when your character is completing the eating animation, or alternatively, it'll replace that item's model with a tin of baked beans. Now, while I am British and we do love our baked beans, variety is the spice of life. Not that we use any of those. Anyway, this mod rather simply adds a bunch of models to support all of the available tinned food items currently in the game and displays them as open when they're being used to eat from. Nothing major by any means, but a nice quality of life addition if your mod list is looking light, or if you're perfectly happy having hundreds of mods. On the topic of being British, did you know our tank crews actually used to keep facilities for brewing a nice hot cuppa inside their tanks? And speaking of tanks, today's video is sponsored by War Thunder, the most comprehensive free-to-play vehicle combat game ever made. It's available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox with a list of over 2,500 tanks, planes, and helicopters, including the best the British have to offer. If that isn't for you though, there are 9 major nations to choose from dating all the way back to the 1920s. Detailed and complex vehicles painstakingly modeled down to their their individual components meet with realistic graphics, immersive sound design, and heavy optimization to make an incredible experience that even low-end machines can play, unmatched by anything else in the space that over 70 million players are already a part of. Download War Thunder today using my link pinned in the comments and in the description of this video to grab yourself a massive bonus pack that includes 7 days of premium, an exclusive vehicle decorative item, and 100,000 silver lions. The pack is available for a limited time only to new and returning players that haven't played for 6 months or more, so get involved today. Now, next for our collection of quality of life editions is Shine Together, which I think anyone playing co-op or multiplayer in a modded environment is going to seriously appreciate. Have you ever noticed when playing with friends that you might not be able to see their flashlights? If so, this is usually a result of a mod that adds some kind of flashlight item that either attaches to the character, an item of clothing, or a firearm. With the Shine Together mod, all flashlights will now be visible to all players, including those from modded sources. So that's it for this one. Hopefully though, this mod brightens your day. Get it? Because flashlights and the brightening and... okay, whatever. This next quality of life mod might redeem me for that pun. This is Dynamic Wall Clock, which makes every single wall clock in the game actually tell and display the correct time. I know this isn't like the biggest change in the world, but none of these quality of life mods are. The point of them is that they're changing features to add just a little detail or fixing something that should probably be in the game already, and for me, this is definitely the latter of those two. It's always kind of bugged me having a safe house and there just being a wall clock that doesn't function at all, and yes, I know there's a time displayed on my HUD, but I also kinda like to play the game without the HUD sometimes. I don't know, Zomboid is a game I like to be immersed in, and not having all those HUD elements on my screen helps with that, so if you're like me in that respect, this mod could be one for you. Okay, so we've had some fairly big mods, and we've had some that bring in some smaller tweaks. How about we take a look at something truly different with the next one, something that's innovative and really pushes the boat out. For this one, I've got just the thing. This is Game Night, and whilst this has been out for a while now, it's had progressive updates and new submods since its initial creation that have really made it stand out to me. If you're not familiar with Game Night, it essentially allows you to play board games inside Project Zomboid with fully working and functional interfaces. This could be something as simple as checkers or chess, all the way to games like D&D or Cyberpunk 2020. When I purchased Project Zomboid all those years ago, I didn't think I'd be using it to draw up a character sheet and sit down with a group of players to play tabletop games, but this mod really does make that possible, and it's just awesome to see that sort of thing come to the game. It also offers just a really nice way to pass the time between those lengthy loot runs. Maybe you're waiting for a friend to come back to the safe house, or you're passing nighttime rather than risking a sketchy adventure. Whatever it may be, it's pleasant just to be able to sit down and mess around with some pogs you've collected, for example. I don't know, there's something very charming about just being able to do this in Project Zomboid, and it's absolutely worth mentioning to bring it some more attention. But what if board games aren't really your thing? Well, I've got a substitute here that's an old classic of the workshop and will almost certainly give you some nostalgic feelings if you used to own an older console, like, let's say, a Sega Genesis. This is the Video Games Console mod, and it does pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to, bringing a host of consoles to the game that will serve to reduce your character's boredom and unhappiness. It even has a random chance to actually increase your unhappiness slightly if your character just sucks at video games, which is honestly a little too real and upsets me because I'd absolutely be that person. There are 5 cartridges for each console in this mod. You'll obviously need power connected to your safe house, and for the handheld consoles you'll need some batteries to make sure they run. There's even a couple of extra mods in the workshop page's description that bring 55 more cartridges to collect for both the Game Boy and NES, making a total of 110 additional cartridges altogether to collect. It's a great mod for the Zomboiders that like to have those little items to stockpile in their playthroughs just for the hell of it. Okay, we're on to vehicles with our next mod for today, and if you've played Project Zomboid for a long time or have just been incredibly unlucky, you might know that there's an issue with vehicles in the game right now that can sometimes lead to, well, this. Now, this might look like a bug at first glance, but it's actually just the result of someone getting into a car and starting the engine before the door has a chance to close. Because we have no animations for vehicles at the moment, it can be incredibly hard to tell if the door is open or closed. You'll essentially only know by the sound of the door closing or the absence of that sound effect. Animations for vehicles have always been something the developers have wanted to get into the game, but it takes a lot of work, and as such, we've just not seen it yet. Until now. This is Vanilla Vehicles Animated, and as the name suggests, it brings animations to every single vehicle in the game by default, including the opening of doors, trunks, and hoods. This mod also works with small town first responders, the Vanilla Vehicle Enhancer mod, and a couple of others too. Also, just because I'm a big nerd and found this really interesting, the modder actually has a section on their page with the question, why didn't the developers handle this themselves? And it turns out that, for the most part, they actually have. I'm far from an expert, but the modder essentially believes that the devs encountered some sync issues with animations in multiplayer and just decided to leave it on the back burner for the time being. I don't know, that just really interested me that they got so close and opted not to include it for some reason. Anyway, the mod solves that problem, and you can now go about your day-to-day survival lives with fully animated cars thanks to one awesome modder. Now, speaking of features that the community wants and doesn't have just yet, there's probably nothing bigger on that list than NPCs, right? Well, there's a new mod making waves on the Steam Workshop right now that I absolutely couldn't pass up in this video, and that's the Bandits mod. With this mod in play, the zombies are no longer your biggest threat, and you'll find yourself assailed by ragtag groups of hostile survivors on a semi-regular basis as part of a repeating game event. These bandits will search for and then attempt to eliminate the player, killing zombies, breaking down doors, and even destroying player-built structures if necessary to get to you. Of course, it comes with a little bit of jank as you'd expect from an NPC mod. After all, this is something highly complex that the modder has managed to accomplish, but it does come with both a surprising amount of customization options before starting your game and a high level of detail too, especially with bandit behavior. They might actually attempt to flee when they're at low health. They might even surrender to you. The bandits you'll encounter will have limited ammo, just like the player, pulling from a generated inventory for them, and you can even spawn in friendly survivors that will attempt to follow you and assist with both hostile bandits and zombie encounters. It's a highly experimental mod right now, and obviously there's going to be some issues, but it's really cool nonetheless to see modders tackling big items like this that we might not see in the vanilla game for years to come. So when I was making this video, I wanted to try and include a firearms mod, and during my search I came across something that's a little different to my usual. This is the Flintlock Weapons mod, and it's exactly what you think it is. If you're looking to defend your safe house from undead ruffians and want to do so in a way that the founding fathers would have been proud of, this is the mod you're after. The mod contains a flintlock musket, a flintlock pistol, and even a blunderbuss capable of hitting multiple zombies at once. Oh, and there's a beautiful tricorn hat that will make you look suitable for the occasion as well. The musket and the pistol use scrap metal and gunpowder to craft their ammunition, whereas the blunderbuss can actually be loaded with screws and bolts. Sure, it's not a big weapons mod by any means, but it's certainly a very fun one, and there's nothing quite like making a grape-sized hole in a zombie's head. Last on the list for today is for those of you that have always wished Project Zomboid had either a currency system or a way to trade for supplies you need. This is no average trader mod though. This is Z-Bay, and if you're thinking that sounds a lot like that one second-hand selling site, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Set up a desktop computer in your safe house and you'll be able to use it to browse, sell, and buy items of choice from the Z-Bay app found on the desktop. There's a delivery date, and on that date the item will appear in your mailbox outside your safe house. And yes, this is actual footage of it in use. It's a fully functional desktop, and it even has the old Windows XP interface, which is really nostalgic for me, and I'm sure a bunch of you won't even be old enough to remember this, but for those of you that are, we can cry and old together. You can also use the same computer to gamble away your hard-earned cash or buy vehicles if you choose to enable that feature. This is a really clever way of getting around physical vendors in my opinion. I just love that someone went as far to create an actual working desktop. It is a stellar mod all round. Once again, a huge thank you to today's sponsor, War Thunder. Don't forget you can play for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox using my link in the comments and in the description, and grab yourself a booster pack with 7 days of premium, 100,000 silver lions, and a unique decorative item for your vehicles available to new and returning players that haven't played for 6 months or more. So that's it from me in this video, folks, but hopefully you found a mod or two in here to try in your own runs, and once again, if you do want to download any of these mods, they are all linked in the description below. I've been doing these videos every couple of months lately, if not every month, so subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with everything on the workshop. Thanks everyone, and I will see you all in the next one.